Why do you say there's poison in our food? What's wrong with pesticides and nitrogen fertilizers? Why is it important to grow our food organically?
Well, I don't say there's poison in our food. Studies have shown there's poisons in our food. And all the public health work has brought out so much. We have a manifesto on food for health, where I worked with some of the top doctors who work with cancer, who showed that the poisons of the chemicals are leading to cancer. A president's report in America showed that only 5% of the cancers are genetic. 95% are really from our toxic environment. Roundup was established by the United Nations agency called the International International on Research on Cancer, that glyphosate is a carcinogen. We know that there's a link between pesticides and cancer, pesticides and the problem of infertility, of endocrine disruption. These are all studied. And we have a very good synthesis in our book. But I'll just share with you the costs. So we have, a publisher wanted me to synthesize my 36 years of research on biodiversity food. And we've put together the costs of industrial agriculture. Just cancer is $2.5 trillion. Diabetes is 2.5 trillion. Endocrine disruption, 549 billion. Antibiotics resistance markers, birth defects, neurodegenerative diseases. We are talking about a whole class of new epidemics from chronic diseases, all of them linked to poisons. Nitrogen fertilizers, well, most of it runs off into the ocean, creates dead zones, runs off into water, creates nitrate pollution. And now the World Bank, which promoted nitrogen fertilizer and is now working with Bill Gates on the Green Revolution in Africa, they're realizing in Africa, wherever there's nitrate pollution of the water, people are losing their capacity to work. It weakens your body. It is important to grow food organically because that's the law of food. That's the law of ecology. That's the law of nature. I have repeatedly said, food is the currency of life. When you grow food organically, you're growing food according to that currency. Money is not the currency of life. When you grow food to make money for the oligarchs, the poison cartel, then you spread disease. You destroy the earth. So growing food organically is absolutely vital for the earth, the farmers, and human beings who eat the food.
What is the extinction crisis and what's causing it?
Well, the extinction crisis is, I would say, twofold. The first is that species are being pushed to extinction. Some people are calling what we are living through the sixth mass extinction. We know we are driving 200 species to extinction per day. 1 million are threatened with extinction. But since we depend on that web of life, we are part of that web of life, pushing other species to extinction means pushing the human species to extinction. So the extinction crisis is also a threat to the very existence of human beings on this planet. We have had a very narrow window of existence. Yeah? The Earth is 4 billion years old, 200,000 years we've lived here. But in the next 100 years, according to all scientific trends, we could make it impossible for ourselves to live. What's causing it is those same poisons. The chemicals that were designed to kill people in concentration camps were then rewritten as pesticides. And insects were defined as the next enemy. But insects are our friends. There are bees and our butterflies and our pollinators. So the war on bugs was declared. And if you see the ads of the pesticide industry, they're going to eat your food, you'll starve, just see the ads of the pesticide industry. And it's not an accident that today 83% of all insect species are gone. Monarch butterfly, just in the years when Roundup started to get used, 90% gone. And I have met people in Mexico who were protecting the monarch butterfly, being killed by those who want to promote industrial agriculture and use Roundup.
Tell us more about Roundup and Roundup Ready crops.
So the word Roundup is basically a Monsanto trade name that rounds up everything green. And this, you know, I was in the biodiversity negotiations, and they actually stood up and said, it kills everything green. But why would anyone want to make a chemical that kills everything green when we want everything green to flourish? That's our food. That's our life. That's where photosynthesis takes place. Now, Monsanto did not invent this chemical. It's glyphosate. And it was invented by a Swiss chemist and then used for cleaning pipes because it chelates metals. So it was used pushing it through pipes and cleaning up pipes. And then some fell and it killed plants. And Monsanto said, wow, we can use it as a weedicide. And not only did they then patent Roundup as a weedicide, they then started to work on genetically engineering crops that are tolerant to Roundup. Because since Roundup kills everything green, it would have killed the plant, the soya, the corn, the cotton. So you have to make, you put genes for resistance. And then everything else is supposed to die. Except that they forgot that nature is intelligent and there's something called evolution. And the other plants evolve resistance. So the Palmer amaranth now is resistant. And they're having to spray even more lethal weedicides. And there's a case going on in France on Agent Orange, which was another weedicide, herbicide, where Dow, DuPont, Roundup, Monsanto were involved in the Vietnam War. They used to burn the forest to be able to see the villages to bomb them. And the case, you know, people are still being born deformed. People are still being born victims of this war. It's chemical warfare. And I really feel Roundup should be rounded up. I've been leading a campaign in India with women farmers because Monsanto has ads that have women's hands tied in greens. And it says, liberate yourself, use Roundup. But what women are collecting in their fields is medicinal plants, greens for their curry and food, fodder for their goats. To declare this as a problem and spraying Roundup as a solution is part of the big public relations blitzkrieg that this entire chemical cartel is based on.
What are Monsanto's and Bayer's goals, and will they accomplish them?
Well, I think Monsanto Bayer's goals are what their founding goals were: profits through violence, extermination, and control. First, it was applied to human beings. Now it's been applied to all life on Earth. And will they succeed? Well, Monsanto was bought by Bayer. And that's part of the reason I wrote The Green Revolution, the book on oneness versus 1%. And Bayer has lost as much value as it paid Monsanto for. So in effect, Monsanto's value is zero. And that was the collapse of market value. Yeah. There are thousands and thousands of cases of cancer victims in the United States. Recently, Bayer tried to undo these cancer cases with a $2 billion settlement, thinking they'll buy a few lawyers and say, finish the cases. But most of the victims refused and most of the lawyers of the victims refused. So far, they have not had their way. And more countries are saying we will ban Roundup. Germany has just announced by 2024, they'll phase it out. Mexico has said they'll phase it out. More and more countries, all of the mayors of France have said, no one will spray Roundup around the villages where there are children and people. So the movement to stop these chemical companies is growing. Their devious methods, of course, keep growing too. But in my many, many, many years, I have found people are winning more often than the corporations.